Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the UFL DFS video for week number 3. First off, I want to start off by apologizing that we did not have a video last week. Everything kind of ran together, ran out of time to do that, so once again, do apologize for that. If you're looking for my MLB DFS video for today, I'm also going to apologize because that is just not out there for today overall. Got a lot of different things going on today, but really wanted to get the UFL DFS video out for week number 3. If you're joining me for the very first time, this is how this video will be structured. We'll be going through my sheet, kind of talking through the players, whether or not I would play them as a GPP option, a cash game option, and then kind of whether or not I'd be a little bit overweight or underweight to the field, a little bit of stacks here and there as well. If you guys have any other additional questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I know for the people that followed me last year, I kind of went through a recap sheet. I am planning on doing that in the future, just have really been in a major time crunch the last couple weeks, so I do apologize for that once again. But without further ado, we're going to get over to that sheet. We're going to talk with the Birmingham Stallions to start things off. They're going against Memphis Showboats this week. Should be a pretty favorable matchup for them. So we did get their depth chart out yesterday. It was listed as Adrian Martinez as the quarterback one on the depth chart. They did split 50-50 last week. So I think Adrian Martinez could be an interesting GPP option just because of his rushing upside. You know, if he plays more than 50% of the snaps, he's going to look pretty good overall. Matt Corral, really not interested in getting to this week overall. At running back, you could probably get to either one of these guys. So CJ Maribel getting a ton of opportunities so far this season. Hasn't really gotten the touchdowns. Pearson's kind of stole those around the goal line. But, you know, they're doing that thing where they line up with the two running backs and another guy, kind of that wishbone formation, I think is what you would call it. And Pearson just kind of had those touches. He's been a little bit more involved this year. So I think both guys are very viable in GPP. Larry Roundtree's inactive once again. And then for wide receivers, we did get the news that Gary Jennings will be inactive this week. Isaiah Zuber will be active for the first time all season. They do have Kevin Austin listed as the starter. He's $3,300. Could be an interesting paydown option there. I do think it's probably going to be a case where we see a little bit more Marlon Williams coming back this week. And, you know, it's week 3, so maybe a little bit more healthy than he's been so far this season. But they're really splitting the snaps amongst this wide receiver group. So really the only guy that truly stands out is going to be Deon Cain once again. And then for tight end, you know, if you want to get Jay Sternberger, $5,900, could be a GPP option there. And the other two guys, you know, they're just dirt cheap, but they're not too involved at this point in time. We got the Stallions defense going against Memphis Showboats. You know, like if you really want to play them in GPP, you could, but at $5,000, the most expensive defense on the slate, I'm not going out of my way to do that. So probably a team that I am a little bit underweight to the field on in terms of defense. If you go back to the rest of the team, probably going to be a little bit overweight to the field on Adrian Martinez this week, probably in line with the field on CJ Maribel, maybe a little less than the field on Ricky Pearson, probably in line or overweight to the field on Deon Cain. And then, you know, if you want to take some shots on Marlon Williams, you want to take some shots on Kevin Austin, maybe even Benjamin Victor this week. Couple different options there that we could go to. Maybe a little bit of mix and match on some of those guys and for myself personally. Then we move down to the Houston Roughnecks. Jared Gorentano, probably mispronouncing his name once again. He would be $8,000, but he's injured. He's going to be out several weeks. They did not put him on IR, although they did sign Kenji Bahar back to the team. And Reed Sinnett should be the starting quarterback this week. He played pretty well in relief last week, so $7,900, like him as a GPP option, maybe a little bit overweight to the field on him. Kind of the biggest detriment for him. Not a ton of rushing upside to be had there. So we'll see whether or not it's just going to be him all together this week, or, you know, they work Nolan Henderson or Kenji Bahar in behind him as well. Then at running back, Mark Thompson, he's still dealing with that knee injury. We'll see whether or not he plays this week or not. So probably not getting to too much of this running back room. If he misses, then maybe we'll get some TJ Pledger at $6,500. He looks a little bit more interesting this week overall. Kirk Merritt, who is seeing some time at running back, some time at wide receiver, kind of that pass catching back, he has been placed on IR. Can't remember if he's going to be done for the year or not. I believe it was a fractured wrist, but that is going to open up some opportunities for some guys, whether it's the guys out of the backfield, whether it's some of these wide receivers as well. When we get down to the receiver room, mainly interested in Justin Hall and Chike Kism. So Justin Hall, GPP option. If Isaiah Henney is out once again, he's going to look even better. And then Chike Kism really had some good chemistry going with Reed Sinnett. So I like him as kind of a cash game option this week overall, $3,500. Pretty cheap price tag there, so I think I'll be overweight to the field on him this week. You know, if you really want to take a shot on one of these other wide receivers, you could do it, but really not going out of my way to do it this week overall. And then, you know, the two tight ends, Brandon Bowman, Woody Random, not really getting to them either way. For their Roughnecks defense, though, $3,900 look like a viable paydown option. They're going against the Michigan Panthers, who are a team that have yet to figure out completely offensively. So there is some opportunities to be had there. Obviously, EJ Perry hasn't played as good as kind of we would have expected. I believe he's got, 3 interceptions in 2 weeks now. So there's some opportunities to be had there. I still don't love the Roughnecks defense, but it's a decent matchup at the very least. So maybe slightly overweight to the field on them, but nothing too crazy. Justin Hall probably going to be in line with the field. Cheeky Kism, I will be overweight to the field on. Moving down to the Memphis Showboats, not really too interested in Case Cook is going against Birmingham this week. It's probably a decent leverage play if you want to get there, $9,600, but I'm not getting there myself personally. Darius Victor is listed as questionable due to an ankle injury. They did release the depth chart. He's still technically listed on it. If we get news that he's going to be limited or, even worse than that, Titus Swen's going to look like a very interesting paydown option, probably a cash game option at that point in time. They could work in Trey Williams as well, who has yet to play an offensive snap so far this season, despite them saying after week 1 they want to work him into the mix. He was a big goose egg in terms of snaps last week as well. So this is one of the teams that's pretty straightforward at the wide receiver position. We got David Davis, Jonathan Adams, and Vinny Papale is the 3 main wide receivers. You could play all 3 in GPP. David Davis would be my favorite of the bunch. He's been really productive so far this season. And one minor note is that D. Anderson will be active for the first time this year. He is a reserve outside wide receiver who did play with the Breakers last season. Then for the tight ends, we got news that Wes Saxton will be inactive. He's dealing with an ankle injury. Sage Surratt, obviously if you want to get there at $6,000, not a bad price tag whatsoever. And then J.J. Wilson we will not be touching. So if I'm looking at the Showboats this week, not too much I'm getting to. Titus Swen maybe a little bit overweight to the field on, just kind of depending on the Darius Victor situation. David Davis probably in line with the field. If you want to take some shots on Papali or Adams, I'm not quite getting there as much this week, but I think it's worth going back to Jonathan Adams if you really want to. And then I'll probably be a little bit overweight to the field on Sage Surratt just in general. The Memphis Showboats defense, $4,200 going against the Stallions. I think they're a sneaky play here. I'm not a major fan of the Showboats defense just in general, but I think they're a viable GPP option, especially going against the Stallions. Matt Corral's been turning the ball over. Adrian Martinez has the potential to turn the ball over. They haven't been as good offensively this year as the past couple seasons, so there is some opportunities to be had there overall. We move down to the Michigan Panthers. So I think there's a lot of people thinking A.J. Perry's job might be kind of in question at this point in time. I think that's something you could take advantage of in GPPs. $9,300 still has some strong rushing upside. So do like him quite a bit. Probably going to be over the field on him. We'll see if any other news does come out throughout the week. That Danny Etling might be worked in a little bit more. So we'll keep an eye out on that. At the running back position, Wes Sills I do have as a GPP option, $8,800. Obviously looks better if Matthew Colburn's out once again. Nate McCurry barely played last week just in general. And then for their wide receiver group, we did get news that Devin Ross is going on IR. So he should be back later on this season, it sounds like. But for this week overall, opens up a couple opportunities there. We did see Jayan Hightower inactive last week. They did sign Siasim Mariner, who is a former Utah State wide receiver, play with Jordan Love there. He was most recently in the CFL, so he could be an option to work in a little bit. And then they did bring back Samson Nakua, who was with the team earlier this season. So in terms of that, not too worried about those guys just in general. Mainly looking at this wide receiver room, you're probably going to get the 4 guys playing a lot of snaps in Marcus Sims, Jordan Sewell, Trey Quinn, and Devin Gray. Mainly getting to Marcus Sims is kind of a paydown option this week. Probably be a little bit overweight to the field on him. He might be a little bit popular after last week, though. Probably get overweight to the field on Trey Quinn this week. I think he's kind of due for a big week at $6,600. Looks like a very, very interesting GPP option. And then for tight ends, we're not getting to Gunnar Oaks, but Cole Hikatini, $3,500 is an interesting paydown option. So maybe a little bit of leverage to be had there. Would not mind getting to him once again this week. And then for that Panthers defense, they're a pretty good defense. They're going against the Roughnecks. Reed Sinnet's at quarterback now, which I do believe is an upgrade. But that Roughnecks team has not been the greatest overall, so don't mind getting to the Panthers this week, maybe even a little bit overweight to the field on them once again. Then we move down to the Arlington Renegades. You got Luis Perez here at quarterback, $8,500. It's a tougher matchup against the DC Defenders. It's a team that's going to bring a lot of pressure. He is a veteran quarterback, so I think he'll be able to handle it well. If you want to use him as a leverage play, you can do it. But I'm just not personally getting there this week myself. At running back, we saw more of an increase for Letty Brown in terms of the snaps versus Davion Smith. They split the carries pretty much right down the middle. So if I had to go to one of the two this week, probably be Letty Brown. So kind of an interesting GPP option, maybe a little bit overweight to the field on him this week at $5,600. We did get news that Day Hunter will be active for the first time all year, so we'll see how he actually works into that mix as well. Last week, we did see a downtick for Deontay Burnett in terms of snaps at that wide receiver position, so probably not getting to him too much. Mainly looking at Javonte Payton, Tyler Vaughns from the wide receiver position as kind of GPP options. Maybe a little bit overweight to the field on Tyler Vaughns this week, probably in line with the field on Javonte Payton. Juan Whittingham is inactive once again, and Caleb Van Den Esch will be joining him this week overall. Sal Cannella, tight end, $5,500. You can definitely get there. The other guy's really not too interested in, but Cannella probably be in line with the field at the very least. Then for the Renegades defense, I think they're an interesting paydown option. They have not kind of lived up to the billing so far this year, which is kind of something I did expect, but $3,700 going against DC defenders. If they can get some pressure on Jordan Tiamo, their offensive skill players really have yet to prove themselves so far. And then Kiki QT, kind of their most notable wide receiver, is going to be missing for this week. For the DC defenders, DeAndre Francois will be the inactive quarterback this week, that third quarterback overall. Jordan Ta'amu, $9,700. I think he's an interesting GPP option just because that Arlington defense has not played good whatsoever to start the year. So could be some opportunities to be had there. Cameron Harris, $7,500. Really not too interested in him. Darius Higgins actually kind of took over last week, so I think he's an interesting paydown option at running back, $5,300. Probably a little bit overweight to the field on him this week overall. And then when we're looking at the wide receiver position, so Ty Scott's had back-to-back good weeks, but he's yet to play a lot of snaps. Brandon Smith and Kelvin Harmon have mainly been the guys on the outside. Kiki UT is inactive this week. He's dealing with an injury, so Chris Rowland will step into that slot role. He's a GPP paydown, probably even a cash game option here at $3,700. He's got like 7.5 points last week on very, very limited snap count after QT went down, so could be a very interesting play overall. You know, if you want to get some exposure to these tight ends, don't mind it as well. And Alex Ellis and Burley Moore-McKinney both have been fairly active in the passing game so far to start the year. And then Kane Smith is inactive once again this week. Then in terms of the DC Defenders defense, GPP option $4,700. I believe they're the second most expensive defense on this week's slate. They're going against Arlington this week. Should be a pretty favorable matchup. So if you want to be in line with the field on them this week, don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Then we move down to the Brahmas. So we're going to have a pretty big matchup here between the St. Louis Battlehawks and the San Antonio Brahmas. Chase Garbers, $10,400 at quarterback, GPP option, maybe even a cash game option for me this week. I think I like his upside of all the quarterbacks the highest this week. And St. Louis, you know, they should have a good defense. They revamped the secondary. A lot of good players on that defense, still yet to figure it out this season, so it should be a pretty favorable matchup for him and this team in general. At running back, not really getting any of these guys. Bryson Aline's yet to play this season. And then John Lovett and Anthony McFarland kind of splitting the work so far to start the year, and not really too interested in either one. At wide receiver, you know, it's mainly the top two guys once again. So we got Deontay Kirkland, $9,800, solid GPP option, probably a little bit overweight to the field on him. And then Marquise Stevenson, $7,100. I kind of like him as a cash game option this week, if I'm being honest. So probably be a lot overweight to the field on him just in general. Justin Smith, still a paydown option, playing a lot of snaps at $3,600. Not getting a lot of work, though. And then Cody Lattimore at tight end, GPP option, $6,700. He was worked in a lot more in week 2. Didn't do too much in week number 1, though. And then they did make a couple of moves at wide receiver this week. They cut both TJ Vasher and Matt Landers, and then they re-signed Calvin Turner, who is a running back at Hawaii, but kind of a versatile player to play wide receiver or running back. He's not on the DraftKings slate this week. I believe he will be inactive for this game as well. So if you want to get like real deep in the weeds, Katie Gannon should be active this week, you know, with no TJ Vasher out there. So maybe he gets a couple snaps in this game. You know, if he gets a deep target and catches it for a long gain or a touchdown, could be in play, but that is kind of getting real deep in the weeds at that point in time. Brahmas defense has played really well to start the year. They're $4,400 going against the Battlehawks. Not too interested in them this week overall. I think this should be one of the higher scoring games of the week. So not really interested in them. I'll definitely be underweight to the field on them. And then we move down to the St. Louis Battlehawks. We have A.J. McCarron, $10,600 GPP option. I'll probably just be in line with the field on him. Maybe a little bit underweight. I think he's got decent upside in this matchup, although the rushing upside is not there. So that is something that limits him on the week-to-week basis. You know, if he goes out there, he throws 230, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, there's easily guys that can outperform him on any given week. And then at running back, we saw Wayne Gallman get less work last week. It was Mateo Durant that got the most. So probably getting to Mateo Durant this week at $7,300. It's a pretty big price increase for him overall. Hopefully he maintains that workload. So GPP option for me, I assume that most of the field is going to get to him in a pretty big way. So probably in line, maybe slightly underweight to the field on him this week, but definitely a guy that warrants some exposure. And then when we move down to the wide receivers, Marcel Aitman, Darius Shepard have been the two main guys this year. GPP options for both of them probably be overweight to the field on Marcel Aitman, since he's just really been killing it as of late. We thought maybe Blake Jackson would work into this a little bit more. He has not. Hakeem Butler's off to a really slow start to the year. If you want to use him as a leverage play, you could do it at $8,900, but a little bit of risk there. And then, Jamarcus Bradley's getting some snaps and some work here and there. $3,100 if you really, really want to get there as a dart throw. And then at tight end, not interested in either one. Jake Sutherland had the touchdown week 1. Kamari Everett is playing way more snaps than him in both games so far this season. So if you had to get to one of the two, Everett's the guy that does make more sense. He is the more athletic player as well, but really hasn't done anything so far this season. And then for that Battlehawks defense, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of good players on the defense haven't really quite shown so far this year. Trying to work through, everything that's not working and figure out what's going to work for them long-term overall. And, it's a tougher matchup against San Antonio this week. So a defense that I will very much be underweight to the field on, not getting any exposure to whatsoever this week. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown of my sheet, kind of GPP options, cash game options, whether or not I would be overweight or underweight to the field on guys this week. If you have yet to do so, be sure to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. Small monthly donation over there. The sheet will be updated, as we get those other depth charts later on today. And then if anything major changes injury-wise or anything else like that, it will be listed here as well. And then I also do have the stats for the season for each week. It includes the snap count rate for each player, target share, percentage of carries, everything like that. A very useful tool over there. So once again, very small monthly donation, ends up being, just over $1 a week. So definitely a good resource to use for UFL DFS overall. But with that being said, once again, if you have any questions related to UFL DFS whatsoever, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. But with that being said, if you're new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. I definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos. Do apologize once again for that. Have not been able to get to it today. And then yesterday it was just the super early start time. So by the time I published it and everything, the content would have only been good for a couple hours. So it wasn't really helping too much of anyone out at that point in time. But I do have my MLB DFS cheat sheets out Monday through Friday up on the Sports Affiliation website. So definitely be sure to check them out. And then I will be doing this UFL DFS video once a week. Like I said, probably going to try to start working in those notes a little bit more starting next week. Otherwise, I'll do a little bit more of a note sheet, and be sure to put that up on the Patreon as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you're a brand new user on any one of those three sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on, and some pretty good luck in UFL DFS for week number 3.